allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, General Manager Evans, would you please confirm notice of meeting?
Notice was given.
Okay. Secretary Nudge, please call roll. Present.
We got Vice President Don Wells, Treasurer Frank Hennigan, Secretary Molly Knox, yes I'm here, Director Al Roper, and Director Marilyn Stout. Absent is Jason. He is, I understand, out of town.
Okay, if my count's right, we've got 6 out of 7 established quorum, meetings called to order. First item of business is approval of past minutes. We have before us the November 13th minutes and continuation of that meeting on November 17th. They were circulated yesterday by Director Wells had a couple edits on them. I think those edits were made. They're in your packet tonight. Are there any additional edits? Okay. So seeing none, I assume that the minutes are satisfactory and approved as such. Okay, they will be approved without reading. Thank you. Okay, General Manager, would you like to begin the resident agenda topics?
Yes, tonight we'll be having 2 opportunities for residents to speak. The first opportunity will be in a moment, and that'll be on any agenda topic. And we ask you limit to 3 minutes. And if someone else has already broached your subject, if you please just defer to them, and we can get through the agenda in a timely manner. The second opportunity will be towards the end of the meeting, and that will be an open forum on any topic with the same 3-minute rule. Thank you. And if anyone is not signed in, please sign in your sheet. If you have a topic to discuss, there are 2 sheets, one for the agenda items and one for the open meeting. Open forum.
You want to call them?
Right, so we have 3-4 people that have signed in for an agenda topic, and the topic states budget, but the budget is actually not on the agenda today or tonight. So which
financial statements for treasurer's report, so it is on the agenda. The treasurer's report that we just received.
okay, that was not actually. You'll have an opportunity to speak on it equally. So if you would hold that to the end of the open forum section, you'll still have the same opportunity to speak. Thank you.
All right. Were there any others?
That's it.
Okay. Okay. Any director requests for continuance of topics that are on the agenda? Okay.
Excuse me.
Seeing none, we'll continue.
We signed up to be able
Sure.
to speak on the topics that are listed on the agenda. It's one of the pieces was the handout that you have. So this is part of the finance update.
You will have that opportunity to speak.
But this is the period
This
that's
is
on the agenda.
This is the resident comments, right?
That's fine. If you want
Right,
it, that's fine.
It's
I agree with that, Jerry. Jerry is the treasurer. It's on the agenda. That means he can speak to the treasurer.
that's fine. I mean,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
sure. So the first person would like to come to the agenda, to the podium, Craig Schneider.
It's Mr. Schneider.
Okay, so the financial statement for November 18th showed a legal expense fee of $50,377.71, when $3,333 was budgeted for that item for the month. Today, the December financial statement came out, and it showed a credit of $22,053.96 for legal fees. I'm wondering what we're spending all this money on for legal fees, and how can we spend $50,000 one month and get a credit back the next? Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Next, speaker is, excuse me for butchering this, but Daniel Robbins, I believe.
Here, I'm not speaking, I'm listening.
Okay.
It's a sign-in sheet, I signed it.
No problem.
Melanie Palmer.
Wasn't clear.
My question was, we received an email,
If you could please proceed to the podium and state your name and your residence. And your topic, please.
Hi, Melanie Palmer. Lambay, and my topic was around the general communications, the finance update. So we did receive an email this week, and it's actually the handout that we have. And while it paints a really great picture of everything that's happening in our community, my question is, does this take into account the budgets that we're receiving back, the bids we're receiving back for the clubhouse, and as well as the changes that are happening with the CenturyLink? And if we're no longer with them, how does that impact the money that's going into this?
Thank you.
Next speaker, Michelle Munch. Excuse me.
That's all right.
Hello. My name is Michelle Muncie, and my topic is also along the lines of the financial update as well as the budget. My question for the ladies and gentlemen of the board is in regards to the proposals. First and foremost, I'd like to know, what was the due date for those proposals? As I'm looking back, and if memory serves, I thought that they were supposed to be back in early December. So my question is, you know, here we are, February the 14th, happy Valentine's Day, by the way, everybody. But here we are, February the 14th, and we as residents have not seen these proposals. So we have no idea where we stand as far as what these bids are looking like, what they're coming in at. And in regards to the letter that we received, you know, we have an election here in a couple of weeks, and I think it's imperative that every member of this community receives a copy, or at least has access to the information on the proposals. That's a huge expenditure moving forward. And we need to know what those expenditures are going to be, and then, you know, we need to be able to make an educated decision prior to this election. You know, I think that this may have been a little premature to send out. I hope that we're in great financial shape, but we have no idea, because we have no idea what those proposals look like and what that future major expenditure is going to be. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is President's Report. And I begin first with the pleasure of welcoming formally our new GM, Jerry, to his first board meeting here in Sandoval. And the communication that I've received back, and it's been limited, of course, but I think that it's been a resounding pleasure to have him on board so far. So after a week and a couple of days, or a week and a couple of days, just about.
Well, excuse me for fumbling through my first board meeting. Those of you who don't know, every board meeting is a little different, so thank you for giving me a pass today.
And I'd also like to thank my board colleagues for all the effort that they put into, I think, making a great selection. I think we're confident in our choice. And I think it was a great job, and I think that the Communications Committee is to be recognized for the excellent job that they did in garnering resident input and consolidating all of that into questions that we used in our interviewing process. So Doug Willett and the Communication Committee, thank you very much for all the help. Just a quick note on a few other items before I turn it over to our treasurer, Hennigan, to advise us. There's a lot to cover today. TM, as most of you are aware, are just about sold out in the back. They're close to the 1425 build now. And I'm not going to hit the numbers, Frank, they're all yours. But we'll be, Frank will be updating on the closings and how the reserves have been, resales and year-end financial results as he goes through his presentation. Just one other financial related item to note is that we have the audit started with Gregory LLC. They've been working up at Pope in Sarasota for a little bit of time. And typically when that happens, you hold the December books open for several weeks to make sure that all of the proper accounting is done for those periods and matters that need to be included in the year end. And that's what was done. So they're now closed, and we'll be processing the audit information here over the next month and a half. I guess one other matter related to TM. TM has further churned in their management structure. Tony Spiteri has now left TM. He did it just shortly after the beginning of the year, and I found out through Pope. So we didn't get a courtesy highlight from TM on that. I understand that Drew Miller, Drew was working with us early on when Benita Bay was in here for a couple periods of time, several months in a row. He's going to take over for their development. Now the significance to us here is that we'll be going through final turnover on phase 3. And I presume that Drew Miller will be the point man. We're supposed to have an introduction to him next week and hope for that to occur. And hopefully we can lock down some of the timing on final transition in phase 3. Not sure how he will participate in the claims that we're pursuing against TM. So that's yet to be determined if we'll have any role there at all, or they'll have someone else that we'll be dealing with. But Tony Spiteri was going to do that, and he's now going. So I don't know whether that's good or bad, so we'll find out. And certainly there's been great interest in the Pine Island Gate. Jerry's put together an excellent summary, I think, of what is occurring on the gate on our property and inside our property. Marilyn has done a good job with the city in pursuing that activity. You want an update on that real quick?
It's on. Thank you. This was the first time that the city had a transfer of property that the original developer deeded to the city. So consequently, it took more time, and most of that time it was spent in the legal office. And I do know that in March it will come before our city council. The 4th of March is the first public hearing, the introduction, first public hearing, and the second meeting time will be the 18th of March, and that's when the last public hearing, and when the council will vote approval, because I don't think it's going to be disapproved. But I think it's a good idea for at least the board, as many as can be there, to be there that night. I will also say, since the board hired Joe Mazurkowitz to represent Sandoval on this issue, I expect for him to be there on the 4th, even though it's just the introduction, and usually nobody comes forward. It'll be the last meeting when the council approves it, that most of the time when speakers will come forward. And the staff will be presenting what will be transferred. And usually, again, it's just before the council votes. So that's what's happening. There does not seem to be any problems. It's approved by the city manager, by staff, that this will be a no cost to Sandoval to have the necessary right-of-way to put in 2 lanes coming into Sandoval and the 1 lane going out.
It's kind of nice to have a city that gives you something at no cost. It's kind of neat.
The city council meetings always begin at 4:30. So consequently, if you would like to attend, you're of course most welcome to do that.
Thank you, Marilyn. Any board member questions for Marilyn on it? Okay. So I guess we all try and get there for the 18th for sure. Jerry, would you like to do anything, update on the date or save it for your report? Or?
Yeah, I've just got a few things. Obviously, I've only been here for a week, but for the past week I've been working on it. And the second notice to the mailing, I think probably most people have seen the email blast that went out. We mailed the second notice on Wednesday, and you should start receiving it Friday at the very earliest. We think most people will receive it on Saturday or Tuesday. I think Monday's a holiday. Oh, it came. Awesome. You will be able to vote, submit your ballot on Friday after 12 noon. We're having a ceremony here, a lockbox ceremony for the ballot box. And then anytime after 12, feel free to come down and drop off your ballot, or you can go ahead and mail it right now if you prefer to do that as well. I've been working on a homeowner's property line dispute. We've also had already a pretty significant deed restriction issue that we're working on, and then acquainting myself with staff, their responsibilities, and acquainting myself with the companies or the associations, AR, AP, financials, and items of that nature, and start to look at the deed restrictions. So there's a lot of work for me to do up front. Also, today, put a notice out for an operations manager, which is basically my assistant, and that'll be a significant help to me to move forward. I've got a few projects coming up, dog parking lot or parking space, and then we're going to put some benches in there as well. And then we've got some a street light project, and one other one, the Pine Island Gate. We're working really heavy on that as well. So a lot going on in my first week. Beginning next month, or our next board meeting, I'll submit a written report, although today was just verbal, and I'll be a little bit more technically involved beginning next month's meeting. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Jerry. Next time I say within the gate, I didn't mean within the whole association gate. I just meant on the gate. But I was going to save it for later. But that's good. Great. Thank you. We cover it now. I guess one other point I'd like to make is we'd like to thank all the residents for their patience and inconveniences with the pool outage. I understand that people are pretty pleased with what happened out there, and I think there was a nice job done on the pool. So thank you for your patience, and hopefully we're back up and running and everything's good out there. On the expansion, proposals on the clubhouse expansion have been received and this week shared with the board. The procedure followed is to rely on contracted associated owners representative engineer and the A&E architectural and engineering firm on initial analysis and guidance. The board will be providing a board communications likely next week to all fellow residents with a more detailed update. I note that we only have a couple initial proposals, no final proposal, and we are hoping in the process going forward to involve more proposers. So, Frank, I conclude my reports. You're on the call.
Before I give any numbers, before I give any numbers, I want to thank Don Sandoval. Is Don here? Why don't you stand up? For all the hard work you put in the last few months, your end is completely different than any other month. You have to be sure you have only 2018 expense that's recorded in a given year. In any given month, month you can roll over. If you're in corporate America, you gotta be assured quarterly, because they release numbers quarterly. But in an HOA, you have to be assured that you have correct numbers by the end of the year. As everyone here knows, Sean left at that time. He should have played a significant part in putting these numbers together. So it was left on my shoulders. If it wasn't for Don, I would have been working 24/7. He was instrumental in making this happen. So the books are closed now, so I'll be able to give you the numbers and hopefully resolve some of the questions that were asked. To start, we started this year with the new sales, the amount of build out. We started at 1,361 homes were built. This year we had an additional 55 that were sold. We're at 416 at the end of the year, meaning that we got 9 left to close. You know, I suspect that a fair amount of them will close in January, February. So we're almost completely built out. When you get to resales, we had 55, again, in the reserve amount, 55 homes being sold at $2,000 a home. We received $110,000 into our reserve fund from the new homes. Resales, we had 110. That's the highest amount of resales we have had. That gives us $330,000. So we were able to put into our reserve fund $440,000, which is, you know, a very good year. So those are numbers. As we get down to the surplus right now is sitting at $1,787,000. So we're getting pretty close to having enough money for our expansion. Again, we made a commitment that the expansion would not exceed $1.9 million, and we're almost there. The reserves are presently at $2,115,746. So we still have a fairly good amount of money in the reserves. Now the operating budget, and let me just go back over the 2 years, just so that we can, I can give a little credit to the rest of the board. Before, when the board came on 2 years ago, we made a commitment that we wouldn't have HOA increases, we wouldn't have special assessments, we come in under budget. The board worked diligently, we did it the first year, and we're doing it again this year. So, at the end of this year, as you know, we didn't have any HOA increases, as we said we wouldn't. We didn't have any special assessments, and we came in under budget. But there's a caveat here, and that was one of the questions that were asked about legal fees. What happened is that we have a budget, and we came in under budget. We pushed hard as a board, and we came in $20,000 under budget without touching any of the surplus. But we had a vote by the residents about legal fees for the transition with Taylor Morrison. So those legal fees were coming in, and that was the thing me and Dawn had to sort. All these legal fees went into one account. There's what they call extraordinary items. The legal fees for the negotiation that we're having with the lawsuit with Taylor Morrison was an exceptional item. So that goes below the line. So you have your normal budget, and then this was what we approved, to go after Taylor Morrison, who wasn't in the budget. So that came in at 60, let me get the exact amount here. It was $62,956. So the actual budget came in under budget of $21,000, but because of these legal fees of $62,956, the amount that you're going to see on the actual financials is going to be a $41,713 loss, or over budget. So by us controlling the regular budget, we reduced these legal fees by $20,000. But to answer the person's name back there about why legal fees flipped, we had to decide what was normal legal fees and what pertained to this transition amount. So there was flipping back and forth. There was also a lot of change. I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but also with CenturyLink, they've been charging us 1,438 homes each month. At total build out, we only had 1,425. So we had to go back for every month You had to see how many houses we had, you had to add how many they sold in a given month, then you had to multiply it by the $49.95 that they were supposed to charge us, come out with that amount. And through all of this stuff, we came back, we got a $44,000 rebate. So this took time, and the same type of thing takes place with Brightview. Brightview cuts the lawns. If the house isn't sold and they're cutting lawns, it still pertains to Taylor Morrison. We shouldn't be paid for it. Sometimes they're charging us for that, so we had to get rebates for that. So all of this is why Don was, going crazy, going through the end of the year. But in any case, so you may see a difference in November to December because we were making all these adjustments so that we were crystal clear. Because at the end of the year, we get an audit, and you got to make sure everything is in. All of this is going to be reviewed by an auditor and validated. So you really have to keep a close look on that. So those were the key numbers. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I missed in here. No, those weren't, and I don't know if they wanted me to go through the numbers that were passed out. Again, so if you're looking at that sheet there, let me get it in front of me, just so that.
Fred, you're referring to the financial board communication?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so the financial board communication I went out there, because that also got brought up. We went through this, it was another way of seeing that, we're in very good financial shape. And it's just which way where we want to take the money from. So in this particular analysis that we're doing, if you go down there, we decided that if we started doing the expansion in August 1st, it would be 5 months left in that month. We're getting $38.86 back. Each house is overpaying $38.86. That's the surplus. So if you do 5 times $38.86 times 1,425 homes, assuming that we're at total build out by August, which we should be, that would give you $276, if you round to $277,000. Then there'll be 6 more years left in the contract with CenturyLink. If you go 6 years times 38.86 times 1425, you come up with another $3,987,000. And then it would be 4 months in the next year. You do that times 38.86 times 1425, you get another 221. Bottom line, you get $4,485,000. So we're saying we're committed to pay $1.9 million for this expansion. We're saying if we pay the $1.9 million, we'll still be accumulating by 2026 $4,486,000. We could easily take $1.2 million out of that surplus, put it over in reserves, be able to pay for the lake, be able to have a security if we get hit with a hurricane, a storm surge. We'd still have $3.3 million. If you get $3.3 million with 3% interest, when we invest this, it can more than compensate for the amount of money that inflation might take onto our budget. And let me just go over one piece of this budget, because if you look at the financials, you're going to get a misunderstanding of what our overall budget is. The amount that's going to get posted on the internet is going to say our budget is $4.5 million. The reason that's misrepresentation, and let me give you an analogy. Let's say there's a husband and wife, and you have both of your checks getting deposited into your one account. And then immediately when it goes in, you take a certain amount out, you put it in for vacations and state vacations, and then you put another part in for security for if your amenities go or something. The person that pays the bill in the house only has the remainder to pay for it. So what I'm saying in this particular case, we have surplus, the surplus that we're talking about. Me as the controller, I have no way of utilizing that money. So if you're saying I have a budget of $4.5 million, I'll tell you, there's $600,000 there I can't touch. So that isn't part of my budget. That gets me down to 3.9. This transfer fee, this is the amount that I told you that we get when we have a resale or we have a new sale. That was $440,000. That stops in the operating budget and immediately goes over, like I was saying in my example, where you put all your money in a checking account, you immediately take it out for vacation. This goes into the operating budget, immediately comes out and goes into reserve fund. I can't utilize that either. So if you take the let's just round it to 6. If you take the $600,000 that's in surplus, the $400,000 that's in reserve, and the one other item is residential landscaping. Residential landscaping is, we as a board, we negotiate this contract for the residents that have residential landscaping. Whatever the landscaper charges is exactly the amount that they pay. So it's just a credit to the revenue, a debit to the expense, and immediately I have no control over it. That just goes. So you have $800,000 there, you got $600,000 in the surplus, you got $400,000 in this transfer. So what we are actually paying, with the actual money that I have control over, is $2.7 million. The reason I went through this whole scenario was to say, the inflation is only going to be on this 2.7. It's not going to be on 4.5. So if you got interest income on 3.3 and you only got inflation on 2.7, you can clearly have enough money that whatever inflation goes up on an expense can be more than covered by the interest income, and the amount of money we have in that account can go on. We should not have to touch the principal unless the residents decide to use more of this money for something else. But as long as we keep this money the way it is now, we should be fine. I mean, maybe residents might decide they want to build a bathroom down at Calypso Park, or they might want to, who knows what they might want to do. But as long as we don't start eating into the principal, there's no reason why that amount of money sitting there can't protect us for HOA fees into the future. And one last thing, as far as there's no guarantee, but at 2026 the contract runs out. I'm not saying I'm an expert at this, everyone can look at it themselves. But at that point in time, I personally don't think internet expenses are going to go up. And if they don't go up, this can continue going on. It doesn't, it's not like we hit a wall in 2026. The savings can continue further on down the road. So I took up enough time here.
That's great. Thank you. That's very detailed. Thank you. Board have any questions of Frank?
I do. Is there a line item for taxes due and taxes paid and the interest that we're earning on the reserve, the money that we have in the laddered CDs? Won't there be tax due on that?
Yeah, it's funny, I had.
Interest income will be taxable. But I saw on one of these profiles there was a question saying that there should be taxes paid on the surplus, and that's just not the case. I have in front of me here the U.S. income tax return, Form 1120H. If you go to the second page, it says exempt items, and the first thing that they say is income consisting from membership dues or fees. That's exempt. So we don't pay any taxes on surplus because it's our money that we're paying in as a fee. We do pay taxes on the interest. If we rent out this hall to somebody, for a party or something, we would have to pay taxes on that. But this is a minimum amount of money that we're talking about. We're talking about even the interest, we're talking maybe at tops, let's say $80,000 or $90,000. So we're not getting it now, but I'm saying when we totally have this amount of money, so whatever tax you pay on $90,000, we would have. So instead of having $90,000 to offset the inflation rate, we may have 75 because 15 will go to into tax. But the big thing is there's no impact on surplus, so you can discount that nonsense.
Yeah, there's, just for people who wanna check it out, it's IRC code, Internal Revenue Code 528, that's what we're required to follow. And that was impacted, it was imposed by the Internal Revenue Service to clarify HOA revenue, to give them the capability to raise revenue through assessments. Revenue raised through assessments is not taxable, provided it's used for expenses and or capital projects going forward, and that's exactly what we do. And Frank was right on the money with respect to things that require us to pay taxes.
I just, Frank, that was a good explanation of that, but I wanted to know, where is the interest and assets? Is that on the assets, the interest that we receive?
Interest income is on the balance sheet.
On the income statement.
It's not on here.
It would be in the income statement, you should be able to pick it up in a line item in the income
And then the
statement.
tax that we pay on that, where's that gonna be?
There'll also be, there'll be taxes of federal income tax on the income statement.
Not on this.
No, not on that. What'll happen, Don, prior year's income tax paid will be on next year's when we pay. It's a cash basis, so we'll pay it probably in April, so it will occur then. I think our tax is due in April, I think that's what it is, yes. Also. So it'll be on the P&L. Okay, any other questions? Marilyn?
A couple of questions. When do we get a balance sheet so that we know the assets, liabilities, balance sheet, or we don't do that?
No, you do, your financial packet starts out the first 2 or 3 pages of the balance sheet.
Okay,
And
having just gotten it tonight, it's
Yeah.
hard to
Yeah,
understand
the first-
exactly.
The first 2 pages of the balance sheet, and then is the income statement following that
Okay.
reconciliation. Then there's a general ledger after that shows all the transactions within.
And I do notice that the line item on property taxes, 14,000 was budgeted, yet we only paid 2,800. It doesn't, is that what we paid to Lee County for property taxes?
You're not, this homeowners association is not taxed for common property. So this building and all the common area property is not taxed. I think that particular tax item relates to the water bill, and I think that's it.
Well, it says property tax, so
Yeah, but it's called property tax and by the accountant, but homeowners associations do not pay taxes on common property.
okay, did not realize that. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Now all the residents do.
Okay, Frank, you complete? Okay, good. Jerry, anything else? Okay, we're all set there. Okay, we're gonna begin the committee reports, communications committee, Doug? Doug, you look cold today, like me.
Lot better in Connecticut, I'll tell you that. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Valentine's Day. I'm Doug Willett, chairman of the Communications Committee. The committee's been very active in the last couple of months, lots of stuff going on. Three areas in particular I want to comment on tonight. One is the progress we're making on the website. The second is our board communications. And the third is the development of a proposed newsletter or bi-weekly bulletin or periodic bulletin of some kind. We keep a scorecard of 21 items, and we're up to 21 now, of different things the Communications Committee has been working on since last May. This will be posted on our website under the Communications Committee if you'd like to take a look at it. But of the 21 items on the scorecard at this time, 10 are complete, 4 are fully operational and ongoing, 4 are in the planning stage, and 3 are on indefinite hold. The Communication Committee lost 2 of its most valuable members this month with the resignations of Maurice Lamontagne and Karen Ross. We have an anticipated demand for our services, so we are actively seeking additional volunteers who might be interested in helping us with this effort. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, February 26th at 10 a.m. In this room, and anyone, all of you are invited to attend. On the three efforts that we have ongoing, the website, first of all, Denise Sandoval and her committee are working very hard. Significant progress in the last couple of months on the Lake Subcommittee. If you want to take a look at what Jim Newhouse and his people have, or Niehaus and his people have contributed there are voluminous amounts of information about our lakes on that website, and I encourage each of you to take a look. In addition to that, we've added a Sandoval business directory to the web page in the last couple of months, and we currently have 26 different Sandoval resident-owned businesses who have their advertising or marketing materials there. And then the third thing that's exciting about the website work is that with Gail Taub's appointment as the acting chairman of the Architectural Review Committee, we are working with her and her committee to get all of the architectural review materials on the website for the first time. So the permit application, the checklist of shortcuts to take advantage of when you're doing that, plus more information, the actual architectural review guidelines will be posted. And so within the next couple of weeks, hopefully we will have a very robust architectural review page for residents to use. In addition to that, we'll also have things on there like lists of trees and plantings that are within the guidelines, house colors, all of the different things we can put on there that will enhance your ability to go through the permit process with as little pain as possible. So we're excited about that. Good progress on the website. In addition, over the last couple of months, the committee has been very active in helping the board with its communication needs. We have drafted and edited several important community announcements and supported the board in the GM hiring process, as Joe referred to earlier, by getting involved with resident input and crafting the suggested interview questions.
Doug, I was trying to figure out somehow to get you in here on President's Day also, because we didn't want you to miss a holiday without.
Right. Several members of the committee met with Jerry last week, his first week here. We had the opportunity to sit down with him and go over the kinds of things we're trying to accomplish, and Jerry had some ideas as well. And one of those is to, we both the Communications Committee and Jerry as GM have a lot of ideas about how to improve some kind of a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly bulletin, newsletter, hybrid. And Ken Franklin, who is heading up our efforts from the Communications Committee, and Jerry are already working closely together to see if we can't come up with some kind of a hybrid that will serve both interests. But I think I'm very, very confident you will see a vast improvement in the communications coming from the new general manager. And we're excited to work with him on many of those initiatives. Just a couple of other things. Since our last board meeting in November, the committee has added an audio-visual function. That is, the AV team is in place. And I think you can see the results of some of the efforts of Victor Neufeld over there manning the camera. Vic is a one-man band at this point. We are looking for others of you who may have been in the audio-visual club in high school. Sneak out of all your classes so you can go show films in somebody else's classroom. Vic could use a hand or two. So if any of you have a background in this area, we'd love to hear it.
Anything above VCR capability.
Right. I think the improvement in the sound quality is evident from many of you who have attended these meetings in the past, and this is due to Vic's efforts, and so we look forward to doing more in that area. Jerry has requested that the Communications Committee move forward on an effort to improve the new residents orientation process. And this is something that we felt needed to be done for a long time. Jerry picked up on it immediately when he got here. And so one of the things I think the Communications Committee would be looking to do is to appoint a resident subcommittee, if you will, who can work with us on designing the whole new resident orientation process, including the new resident handbook and the whole orientation process that we currently do in a really less than satisfactory fashion. So you'll be hearing more about that as we go along. And then finally, Jerry has asked us to put together a recommendation for an email blast policy, which would sort of provide him some guidelines on how to make use of email blasts. For example, if one of us should be unfortunate to lose our dog or our cat, is that an appropriate item to be blasted out to the community through our email? We haven't used it in that way in the past, and I suspect we may not want to use it that way in the future. But we need to have some kind of, Jerry would like to have a written policy to help guide his decision making in that regard. So we'll be looking to draft something and then presenting it to Jerry and the board for final approval. And then finally, just to comment, we've got a full plate. We appreciate the support we're receiving from the residents and the board and the new GM. We look forward to continuing to make progress in our efforts to improve the communications. And once again, we are looking for more people who might be interested in joining us in our effort. Thank you.
Doug, I continue to emphasize the great job you guys are doing, not only in the degree of professionalism which you display in everything you've done, but your timeliness. You guys are on the point at all hours of the day, and thank you for that. And I think you've done this community a great service, and I think all the residents are best served, right? Thank you.
Doug, could you please tell us again the time for February 26th meeting?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, grounds, Ernie?
Okay, Landscape Committee report for today, February 14th. And happy Valentine's Day to everyone. The pool renovation is complete. Everyone is enjoying the new look of the trees and around the pool. The slide is more visible, as is the lake with the fountain. I have received many positive comments on the new landscaping at the pool. The seasonal poinsettias have been removed from the front of the clubhouse. We are replacing them with purple and yellow pansies for spring. That probably will be done, I'm thinking maybe tomorrow. The new cement crosswalk and sidewalk are complete. This is located inside the Veterans Gate for safer pedestrian traffic. The stepping stones have been removed. New landscaping beds have been installed and new sod. This will give pedestrians a much safer place to cross from the Esplanade over to Somerville. With pleasure. The yellow lantanas have been removed on the Esplanade between Greendale and Blackburn. the pictures that I have passed out, we replaced them with 50 bromeliads. I have donated them through my company. Crawford has donated the labor, and the net cost of this project is zero to the community. The lake company, Aquatics Inc., is doing a great job treating our lakes. Lexus Peltry, our on-site biologist, has been giving us daily update reports. I would like to commend her on her thorough and efficient reports. And that's what we have so far.
Great. Thank you, Ernie. Ernie, the place is looking great, in my opinion, and I think the board would agree with that, so thank you. Lake Subcommittee report. Scott?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Scott D. Philippus, Lake Subcommittee. Jim House, the chairman, wishes to express his remarks that he can't be here tonight. He's unfortunately on the water tonight, working. So, excuse me, when I go through the report tonight, you'll see some abbreviations, LSC, BOD, AS, and that's going to be Lake Subcommittee, Board of Directors, Aquatic Systems, so you guys will know what I'm talking about. It kind of will shorten things up for everybody. So, the monthly Lake Subcommittee Board of Directors reports, in the absence of regular meetings that the board did not have the last few months, the reports were submitted to the board and are posted on the website for everyone's review. And a special thanks to the Communications Committee. You guys put that stuff right up there, and we appreciate you getting our stuff up there as soon as possible. So, open monthly Lake Subcommittee meetings. These occur on the first Wednesday of each month in the multi-purpose room here from 3:30 to 5 p.m. And they are listed also on the online calendar. So we have a specific spot for us. It's open to the public if anybody wants to come and sit on those meetings. In minutes, in accordance with the Board of Directors standards, have been completed and posted to the Sandoval website for the meetings December through 2018. Last meeting was held on 2/6, and all LSC members were present, including Grounds Committee Chair Giordano, Grounds Committee member Allison Johnson, Board member Al Roper, and discussion topics included review of aquatic system services to date, the Lake and Pond webpage updates for new maintenance vendor contract, and monthly inspection reports. Resident lake issue reporting systems and the process, which that is going to be allow everyone as a resident, if they see an issue with one of our stormwater retention ponds, aka lakes, you'll be able to go directly to the website, create basically an incident report, let's say, and that will get uploaded and reviewed by one of the members. And again, it wouldn't be possible without our communications team. Let's see, rescheduling a site visit for a total plant assessment, which is ongoing with our pond watch biologist, and resident volunteer training and visits to the stormwater pond presentation, which we're in the process of getting out. Some of you may have attended our presentations that we've done before. We're going to work with the board and Gary to get some dates available, so we're going to have that presentation before the residents again. And again, everything that we talk about or that you see is going to be uploaded to the website, and a great job again on the website there. So just a brief synopsis of what's going on with aquatic systems. Two Lake Subcommittee members attend a meeting with AS on 1/23, and the meeting notes again are posted as per the board's direction there. And Lake Subcommittee is pleased with the content of the monthly inspection reports. A lake name lookup table was created and inserted into the inspection report to simplify review by the residents. We've received a lot of questions from the residents. What lake is this? Is it a number? Is it a name? During the beginning, they were named, they were numbered, so what we decided is we're going to come up with a specific way for you to say, lake number 8, we have a perceived problem, we'll know what that is, the vendor will know what it is. Internally, we might have a name for it, but for reporting processes, you guys will have a specific way of getting that report to us, and we'll know exactly what you're talking about. AS is taking a more thoughtful approach to treating problems. Past practices have mostly been one-dimensional quick fixes through reactionary chemical treatments. It is recognized in the water management industry that there is a threshold with respect to chemical use. Once crossed, restorations becomes more difficult and costly. And that's in our beginning. We've always tried to do the integrated pest management program where we aren't using chemicals. I mean, we can go in, we can do the copper algicide, and that's the worst thing we can do, but it's going to get rid of the algae. That's not what we as a lake subcommittee want to treat our lakes. So please be patient with us. We are going to treat one problem at a time as we see. Let that problem resolve itself and move on to the next one. Before the other vendor, we were just going in and we were just blanketing everything that we saw. Therefore, we were having issues with the lake. So again, please be patient. We are doing what we perceive and what the industry perceives as best practice for treating algae. Lake maintenance vendors are challenged with balancing aesthetics and biological function when issues arise. These vendors are merely treating symptoms of the greater problem, which starts with our issue of fertilizers and subsequent runoff into our lakes when it rains. Our terrestrial actions are fueling the fire, but simply put, green lawns give us green ponds. Water quality monitoring program, the University of Florida Lake Watch program, which everyone on the Lake Subcommittee is trained at that level. Whether it was on-site or off-site, again, if there is anyone who wants to participate in lake water sampling, you can just contact Jim Niehaus, or I'm sure if we go through the general manager, he can get in touch with Jim, we can get you trained, and we'll get you on the lake, dipping your arms in the water along with the alligators, now monitor lizards, and everything else. So since we start last August, resident volunteers have collected over 80 samples for total nitrogen and total phosphorus analysis, which is an indication of potential for nuisance algae growth. And again, the nitrogen and phosphorus really goes back to our terrestrial use with fertilizers. The majority of collected samples are at the Gainesville Laboratory with the University of Florida, with results expected soon. February sampling of 6 program lakes is planned for next week. And for those who aren't familiar with what we do, we started out with 6 lakes that we identified in the beginning that were problematic. So we constantly sample those lakes. As our testing and our monitoring expands through resident input and resident participation, we may be able to do more lakes. So we'd like to see that increase. So if anybody has extra time, come on down. We also now are in the process of getting together with Lee County Pond Watch program, which is at a local level opposed to the University of Florida Lake Watch, which is a statewide program. And the Lake Subcommittee would still like to pursue resident training and littoral plant assessment using the biologist by the Lee County Pond Watch. And the visit would also include a presentation for residents on understanding your stormwater ponds, and support from the GM and the board would be needed to assure timely release of those announcements so we could again get a spot on the calendar at a time that's convenient for everyone. And one thing Jim wanted to put in his report is about our beneficial littoral plant concerns. Now everyone knows that around our ponds are plants. They're not weeds, they're plants. There's approximately 4 of them, 4 species of those plants. They're planted at different levels of water because they thrive at different wet feet, if you will, and they're at different depths. So around the perimeter of the lake, there's what we call a littoral shelf. That's about 3 feet wide, and that's by design. So somebody who's kind of walking by the lake, maybe they get in a little bit too close, they don't just have this precipitous fall into the water. So there's the shelf, but that shelf also allows us to plant a specific littoral there, and then as we go further into the lake, we have a different plant that like wet feet all of the time. That just kind of gives you a thumbnail sketch of what those do. And again, they're there. They have to be there by our environmental permit. Cutting them down is against the law in the state of Florida. It violates our environmental resource permit, which puts the board and the residents on the hook for replanting those. So I digress, but based on the review of the most recent AS inspection report photos, our biological shields are declining to a potential point of ineffectiveness in most of our lakes. It was recognized by the AS biologists that repeated chemical applications to the planted shoreline areas can have a toll on beneficial plants. The significant rainfall on January 27th and recent warming trends have contributed to planktonic algae blooms in some of our lakes with the water turning green. The intent of beneficial plants is to serve as a marsh filter by absorbing terrestrial runoff, nutrients, and to lessen the impact on water quality. Adequate density and diversity are key components of an effective vegetation buffer. Annual monitoring and maintenance of these plants are requirements of our environmental resource permit, like I just alluded to. LSC recommends full-scale planting of deficient shoreline areas in all phases of Sandoval, starting this spring. For every year we skip replenishing the littorals, we can add 2 years to the recovery of those littorals. So I know we have money budgeted, and that's been something that we have tried to get into the budget, and hopefully we'll be replacing those littorals so we will have an effective shield for runoff. So that's Jim's report. If the board has any questions towards that, I'm more than happy to answer questions. If not, I am done.
Thank you, Scott, and you guys continue to do an excellent job. You have for many years.
I've got a question, sir.
If I might just, I think one of the benefits we've recently seen with the new vendor and your ability to interface with that vendor, it looks like it's becoming a better rapport situation. And I see that becoming more cohesive and a lot of good synergy there. And appreciate you guys' efforts in working with them, because I think they're a quality group that we're seeing right now, as opposed to what we compared to what we had in the past, that were really on the edge. And thank you for all your efforts in that area. Al, I'm sorry.
Yes, Scott, I caught an email concerned about pumping groundwater out from under a pool, and I'm also concerned about emptying pools. You know, everybody's pool here is aging, and my understanding is that pools should be emptied completely every 5 to 7 years, and it's not supposed to go in the sanitary sewer. What is the best practice for both of those instances?
That's a great question, and we've been going back and forth trying to find specific legislation that just pinpoints point source discharge is what we call it. The only thing that we can find and have found, it goes back to 1973, which is the Clean Water Act. And basically says, and I see Joe shaking his head because you're probably familiar with it, your point source discharge cannot be directly discharged, if you will, into specific areas, and bodies of water are one of them. So, it's twofold. Yes, everything that goes in the street goes down our drains, and our drains go into only one spot, and that's into our lakes. And then from our lakes, unfortunately, this is the way the water system works, it goes into Cape Coral's freshwater canal system, and then subsequently out to the Caloosahatchee. So, you know, I wish I had a definite answer for that. The only thing I can say is the only thing that belongs down a stormwater drain in the state of Florida is rainwater. Anybody who's pumping their pool water, dumping antifreeze, anything like that is prohibited by law. So the recourse, I'm not sure exactly what we would have unless we would go to the DEP and file a complaint that they're in violation of the Federal Clean Water Act, which I really don't think there's going to be much validity in that. I think it's more on our part as a committee through education and at some point through enforcement. I personally received an email, probably the one that got circulated around that you were talking about, so I did a site visit. And what happened was somebody was getting their pool resurfaced and redecked. So as we all know with our pools, when we discharge water from our pool, if we don't go to that well point and pump that underground water, the pool's going to pop out of the ground down here. So that seemed exactly what they were doing. They were just managing that water that is under the pool, and it was being pumped into the storm drain. But here, as you know, even if we...
The pool had to be emptied prior...
Correct. Where
did that water go?
But here's the caveat, though. Even if they discharged it, whether it's a chlorine pool, saltwater pool, or whatever, onto their lawn, it's just going to perk right into the aquifer anyway. So I wish I had a better answer for that, but you know, I think we just have to be diligent in doing our homework and getting folks educated. The good thing is that if it goes into the stormwater drain, out to the lake, if we have the littorals, that were healthy in the buffer, that might help buffer that. But one of the things we do see is when we're on the lakes, as we're going around doing our water samples, what I do is when I'm in a kayak and I'm on Stony Hill Kayon, I'll go around the lake and just check the quality of how things doing. And what I see is I see a lot of people using their pool discharge for overflow when it rains. That's being plumbed right into the lake. So number one, there's a violation, and that's probably an ARC violation there. And also they're taking their downspouts and discharging them directly into the lake, and that's a violation also. They need to be, especially downspouts, and that's just an FYI, everybody. I know most of us are from up north. We don't understand no gutters. There's a reason for no gutters on houses in Florida, only where you walk or pull your car in, is so it perks into the ground and dissipates at a slow rate, and not as a 4-inch discharge from a downspout where it cannot percolate into the ground. So that's why we don't have downspouts.
Let me tell you, last year, we did 2 inspections of the stormwater system. We passed both. That meant in 2019, the residents, Sandoval, and the common area saved $171,000 and a few cents. If we didn't do that, if we didn't pass, we lose that 60% discount of stormwater. Through 2019, since 2010, it's $1,066,000. That's a lot of change. But I get upset when somebody says we have to work on a stormwater system. I don't say we don't have to work on it, but we have to work on what Scott said. What's going into the system? It goes in the system. It goes in the different areas, goes in the lakes, and goes out. I just talked to the city today. They have one area up, if you come in Tafalca, go north to the end and turn left. East-west, we have a swale that's grown over. They're trying to talk to the landlords, we don't own that property, to go in there with their equipment and clean that out. Then that will flow east and west. That's the only problem I see with stormwater. I don't see no other problems. And I'd appreciate the Facebook people, and they do good things, but don't say it if it's not factual. You heard me, I have worked my butt off for this damn community, and then I gotta get criticized that stormwater is a problem. It is not a problem. Right now, I just seen the new GM, we have to do an inspection for the dry season, which is another couple months. I talked to him, and he consolidated us with Surfside, Woody's, the bank, who owns that, and,
Bridle Lane base.
yeah, and we're going to.
And Coralina.
Yeah, and Carolina is not on it, it's not.
No, it is, that outflow like Coralina flows back into ours, so it is.
Yeah. Well, they're not on our list.
I know.
So the GM's gonna send back to Avalon Engineering to do the inspection. And they have canceled the inspection for the wet season. The city, don't ask me why, I'm glad they did, because it's cost us money to have Avalon Engineering do the inspection. So I hope everybody understands what I said. And I have one other thing. On that gate out there, I got involved in November. What Marilyn Stout said is factual. My only problem is, in January this year, we gave the city everything they desired. A survey, Avalon Engineering, all the paperwork. Here it is now. Valentine's 14. And I can't understand why they couldn't do it through. Then we had it all set up for the second meeting in February to announce it. Then the next meeting on the 4th of March, the city will approve it. What's happened? The city canceled the council meeting, the second one in February. So now it's 4 February, like she said, and 4 March and 18 March. Please, if you want to go to the second meeting. The first one you don't need to go to. Joe will take care of that. We don't have to worry about the first one. But don't everybody go, because I think it's a dead deal. I think they're going to approve it. But a few people need to go, or the board members. And thank you. I'm I'm sorry I bothered you.
Jim's looking for that extra ounce of steak and a little bit fatter lobster tail tonight. Jim, but seriously, thank you for all you do and work with the city for us in a lot of things. And in particular, I know the stormwater he must have his hearing aids out. The stormwater, okay, well, the stormwater effort that he's done is fantastic. And he's hosted meetings that we've had with the maintenance crews in the city, and it's been really good, so thank you. Now I lost track, Jim, because you screwed up my agenda. Our consent agenda, so we had nothing on the consent agenda, so we'll just follow through with that. Our committee actions, there were none from Mike Thalberg, so we can pass on that item. Covenant committee actions, I'm sorry, our committee, let me just make, I got confused with covenant committee. Our committee, what we should be doing on a basis, and I think it was probably maybe not clearly discussed last time, was that we would summarize the ARC approvals each meeting and then present them to the board prior to that meeting, and we would consent agenda those items. So that would be the mechanism. So.
Can we turn off the cameras over here? Everyone's freezing. You're not driving.
Even with a jacket on, frozen.
Thanks, Tom.
I thought I was doing something wrong again, because they're all pointing now. So covenant committee actions, Mike Dalberg advised also there was nothing there. New business, lake aeration. Let me just introduce the topic. As most are aware, the board has caused focus through our lakes water quality vendors, ASI, and prior to that, Solitude, to provide some sound, actionable data on lake water quality. And that was in conjunction with our own lake group here and working closely with them. So I don't want to leave them out of this because they were instrumental and they have been at the point of pointing out these issues for us, and we appreciate their efforts in that. But I think that since ASI has been in here, they've done an outstanding job in coming up with the type of data that's necessary to be able to make an informed decision that we have definite deterioration of lakes in a definable manner of dissolved oxygen, and that we need to interact with those lakes in some form and procedure and process to be able to upgrade them into the future and prevent them from further deterioration. It's sound science, and basically we're convinced that that's the right way to go. Basically, what ASI has done, they had a sister, again, it was a prior sister company, now it's broken off from ASI. And by the way, ASI is now Solitude because they're acquired by Solitude, so it gets a little bit complicated, but we still have the key personnel from ASI serving us, and that's in our contract, so that's not going to change. So the point being is that we have good people that are really helping us. And their recommendation is for us to go ahead with aeration. And as I understand it, our council has prepared a resolution to cover all 17 lakes. And 17 lakes is the total number of lakes, correct, Scott? We have 2 lakes that are not included in the aeration recommendation because they border on and outflow into other lakes outside of our property, and there's some continuous flow there, so they're a little bit different than what the lake aeration condition might be for them, so they're not recommending them included. It will include the Somerville Lake, which already has aeration equipment in. If you want to look at a comparison of what a good-looking lake is, go down and take a look at Somerville's compared to some of our lakes. They put that in there several years ago and have managed it well. We will include that system in these lakes to be covered, and basically we'll get them on a maintenance program and be responsible for maintenance and repair of those lakes as per the resolution. But basically when their equipment comes up for replacement, which is hopefully it has a few more years on it, a good bit of time, I guess, Karen, you can maybe talk to that, but it should be a long time. But we will replace that as part of this process too. The key thing is that the Vertex, who is a very high quality vendor on lake compression equipment and aeration, has put in a proposal, and we had another proposal from Solitude, believe it or not, prior to them acquiring ASI. And we also have, inclusive of the electrical part of that, the key to it has been that their combined proposals look at a very effective manner in which to manage the lake system from a cost management standpoint, and also a nuisance factor standpoint, because these compressors can be a little bit noisy, not real loud, but noisy, but they've done several home runs and electrical runs to optimize and running several lakes on off those electrical compressors in strategic locations. So it's going to cover 17 lakes, including Somerville. And General Manager, would you please just read the
Sure, I'm going
resolution?
to recommend the board make a motion to approve the following resolution. And resolution regarding lake aeration project for Sandoval Community Association. Whereas Sandoval Community Association is the nonprofit Florida corporation responsible for the administration, operation, and management of Sandoval Community located in Lee County, Florida. And whereas the association is responsible for the maintenance, repair, and replacement of the common areas, including but not limited to the lakes located within the community. And whereas the board of directors of the association is responsible for the day-to-day operation and management of the community. And whereas the board of directors, in consultation with appropriate professionals, has determined that it is appropriate to install aeration in the lakes located on the common areas. And whereas the board of directors had determined that it is appropriate to fund the installation of aeration in the lakes located in the common areas with funds from the telecommunications surplus. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. 1, the above recitals are true and correct, and each and every one is incorporated herein its entirety by reference. 2, by adoption of this resolution, the board of directors authorizes the use of up to $500,000 from the telecommunications surplus to fund the installation of aeration in the lakes located on the common areas. 3, the work to install the aeration in the lakes located on the common areas shall proceed with the goal of being completed by the end of 2019. And lastly, 4, the board of directors has the authority to select the appropriate contractors, work methods, materials, and finishes related to the installation of the aeration in the lakes located on the common areas.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to second? Discussion?
Under discussion, perhaps, Al, if you have that picture that you could show the board of what that basin looked like prior to the aeration, and if you just realize that what you're seeing is the before, and I don't have an after picture, but I can tell you it was completely clear.
Pretty remarkable.
That picture we're down taking the Clipper Bay. It's been on the news several times.
And I will also share with you that the city is going to also use bubble curtains so that when the water comes from Lake Okeechobee, it will not be able to get into our canal system, or at least that's what's proposed.
Yeah, and just one more comment. Our lakes are a bit more challenging in that there's an opportunity there within the canal system for inflow and outflow, whereas we're kind of truncated. It just resides with us, so whatever's there, it just keeps on building up. So, having said that, any further discussion? Don? I see you reaching for the microphone.
I'd like to say that I'm 100% in favor of getting our lakes aerated. It's something I think it's been a long time coming, and I'm very happy that we've addressed this, and I'm also ecstatic that it's coming out of the telecommunications surplus, which I thought would be a good source for that, and I think we've come to some agreement with that, which I really commend my fellow board members for allowing that to happen. And just on a side note, on the lakes, we see this algae and we see it in the littorals. We are now in a growing season right now, and you can't take care of that when the littorals are dormant. You know, you have to wait until they're not dormant, and then they can withstand something that would help take care of that. So there are people that are concerned about that. The lake biologist understands that, and but she doesn't want to kill the littorals in trying to get rid of the algae. So it's not going to harm us if we wait until they're growing. So.
Yeah, just one more aspect of the implementation of this program. We're gonna go as fast as we can reasonably do it in a proper manner and do it in an extremely professional manner. There is a period of time in which it could be up to 8 to 10 weeks in which permitting and all has to be put in place, and electrical connections have to be made in coordination with LCEC. So that is gonna be the most difficult time convolution in the process. But we will try and stage it in such a manner that we go through a staged process. I don't know if it's gonna be 2 or maybe 3 tranches of lakes that will be brought on stream at a time. But what we've tried and done is isolate it to those 6 or 7 lakes for the first tranche. And I think, Scott, it was 7, I think, is the last proposal we've seen, where we take that electrical home run and then do the compressors from that area, pick up 7, and we'll probably pick up another 7, and we'll do the remaining. So it might be like 3 tranches, but don't hold me to that. So having said that, any further discussion? Let's call the question. All those in favor of approving the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Looks like it's passed unanimously with the hearing. Just for a point of order, Jason is absent, and an absent board member is considered an assertive vote, so it will be an unanimous decision by the Board of 7. Okay. Just along similar lines, if I might add here, we had several other lingering projects that have been out there and kind of hanging fire for a bit, and really didn't have a good hands-on mechanism for moving them forward. And they relate to the Phase 3 dog park parking lot and gave for a small dog area and 5 benches to be included. Let me just mention that we were wrangling with Taylor Morrison on that for a while. Taylor Morrison initially committed to completing that. We're gonna die waiting for them to complete it. So I think it's wise for us to pursue these. Lighting for Phase 3 S-curve, and again, there's a little bit of engineering work that has to be done there to make sure that we're doing it properly. Curb reshape for Pine Island Gate, and that's when it's probably shovel ready, pretty close to it anyway. And Vermont wall repair. I would suggest, Jerry, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to request you to go ahead and develop RFPs with proper vendors involved in as much of that can be done for March and as reasonably soon thereafter, if not for March, okay?
The lighting is Anguilla Belleville, not Phase 3.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Anguilla Belleville curve.
Okay. I'm sorry, I misspoken, my apologies. Do we need board action on that, or no? We're just requesting him to do it, okay. As a matter of fact, we already have the inside curve on Gate 3, I think was in an RFP. I mean, wasn't that in no, we didn't do that yet?
No, it was, there were cement issues.
Go ahead, I can't remember.
There were cement issues for curbing and the islands and things on the Phase 1 and Phase 2.
Yeah.
And that did not include that. Sean said that he was going to add it to it, but we had never voted on that.
Okay. All right. So having done that, we're all in favor of pursuing this? Yeah.
Yeah, I was also looking, we were talking about putting up lighting on some of the landscaping, coming in. So I was wondering maybe we could mention that here as well.
Anybody have any problems with adding that to Jerry's list to look at, of lighting on the front?
As you and I talked, that would be a wise thing to do at the same time the electrical runs are being done for the aeration pumps. Because if they're gonna be in the same area, we could probably have it done at the same time.
Any objections to adding that to the request for Jerry?
No, I think Al had, we were talking about at Pine Island Gate, they had put receptacles. So when we have Christmas lights and things like that, we have a place to plug them in. I think at the Veterans Gate, we're stealing the power from inside some of the equipment, and I think Al could speak to that a little bit.
Bose is recommending. Bose is recommending that we put those, it's about $1,900, I think, to put electrical sockets at each pillar. So for Christmas lights and whatever else we would use the electrical sockets for. But there will be significant savings if we do all this in conjunction with the directional boring that will happen underneath the roads for the aeration equipment.
If you don't mind, Al, could I ask you to interfere with Jerry on the specifics of that, and we make sure we get everything wrapped up in one ball with Bo's work, and pick it up there, so, great. And Jerry, okay. So
Is this gonna require addendum to the motion that we just made for the aeration of the lakes? If we're going to tack that onto at least the electrical portion, if we tack that since they're gonna be here, or does this need to be a separate issue?
I would deal with it as a separate issue, because the scope will be separate for Gate 3, and that, we can handle it fairly quickly, keep it small, and we can do it that way, I think, okay? Everyone on board with that? Okay. All right,
I just have a question that I sent something around regarding how we handle RFPs, a little procedure. And I think it would behoove us to have a procedure and a logbook, and then we open an RFP. I think in the past we've opened RFPs and the project is done and we're told it's complete. But I think, if we're doing this in a way in which everyone knows what's happening, we need to know when the job's done and what the job cost us. And so we complete the cycle and we close the RFP once it's done with a report as to what it cost us.
no, it's an excellent recommendation, Don, and I think your proposal was very good. We can massage it, to make it fit correctly. But, yeah, sure, but it's great, it's excellent, Paul is good. And Jerry, I think, has that in his hand.
Opening the RFPs, I think perhaps the board member needs to be present. Maybe the liaison to the GM might be present.
Even when the proposals come in?
When the proposals come in and when they're opened, I just think it would be a good policy to have a board member present.
Yeah, if we're looking for a competitive bid situation, that is definitely, if you're just looking for a proposal and trying to just field it to see, to investigate, it's a little bit different, but I understand that, I would agree with that.
Also, I've noticed that there's not an area here at the end prior to adjournment that for board comments.
Yeah, there is, I was just gonna ad-lib it, I forgot it, my apologies. So,
It just would be nice to have that.
I have it right here in mine, this is my agenda. If I thought, I'm sorry, no, I just missed it. Okay, so I think we thought that one to death. New business, adding to the planning guidelines is requested by your committee for consideration. I guess my understanding is that some of those were missed and they're already in place, but Molly, you want to provide an overview?
The ARC committee has been informed that several plants have been left off the acceptable list in the ARC booklet. All of the plants have been widely used by each builder and by both Bonita Bay and Taylor Morrison as declarants in all 3 phases of Sandoval. The board members have the list of 15 plants. I move that the ARC guideline booklet be augmented to include the plants brought forth by the ARC committee.
Okay, done. You've got a second? discussion? I guess the key point is that they're already used. They've been used by Bonita Bay, they've been used by Kettle Morrison, we've been using them, individual people have been using them for 17 years now, or whatever, or 16 years, so what are we doing? So let's just get them on the list, so okay. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is passed. New business, Villas Orc variance request. Molly, I think you have the overview on that one.
The Villas One Sub Association requests a variance of the $25 ARC fee when submitting a design review for a specific project. The Villas One community has drainage issues between homes. Crawford Landscaping, in conjunction with the Villas One board, have come up with a solution to the soggy areas near members' front door areas. Because the solution requires a bed size change with stepping stones, a design review form must be submitted by each participating homeowner. The variance is to be used strictly for this project only. In the packet that you have before you, each board member, you will find a picture of representing the soggy area and a picture representing the solution. At this point, I move that the Sandoval board grant a variance of the $25 ARC fee for Villa One residents participating in the bed size and stepping stone change to alleviate drainage issues near their front doors. Is there a second?
Do we have a second? Discussion? I just might mention it's reasonable and it's a very similar, it's the exact activity for all those homes. I think it was approached correctly, and I would support this motion, so. Call a question? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, new business signage, and I might mention here that Dawn and Al have been fantastic in putting this project together as usual, and spent a lot of time in doing it, and it's much appreciated, and it's something that this community really didn't have a mechanism to do, and it falls into that open area that you talked about, Don. But you want to provide the overview, Don?
This is a project that is somewhat underway, but we need to officially approve it and get it on the record as what we're doing, and I want to explain it to you. Some of the things that we've been talking about, Al has a very strong passion of issues that are safety related. And the dog park parking is one, because the Pine Island Gate, believe it or not, someday is going to open here real soon, hopefully. And when that happens, there's going to be a lot of traffic, and the way we're parking around that dog park along the edge, the dogs are going to jump out of the car, the people are going to jump out of the car after the dog, and something's going to happen, and we don't want it to happen. Plus, you know, if you look at the grass along that area, it's all gone, and potholes and water and mud. So, you know, this is a safety issue. We're trying to prevent a problem before it happens, and so that, therefore, the reason for the pressing on the issue of the dog park parking. The lights around Anguilla Belleville, it's a very pitch black area. Residents have been concerned about that, and we need to take care of that as well. And so that again is a safety issue. And that brings me to the signage. The signing is a safety issue as well. And Al and I have rode around, and we every single street we looked at what signs were there and what signage would need to be done. And we divided it into phase 1 and 2, and then phase 3. The signage in phase 3, we were under the impression that Taylor Morrison would pone up and do the right thing and put their signage in, but again, we've run into loggerheads with that. It's never happened, and I think safety trumps waiting. So what we had proposed is where there are some places that have a crosswalk sign on one side turning into the street, and on the other side the sign's missing. So we need to add those. Believe it or not, there's 27 crosswalk signs that should be added so that when you're turning into each neighborhood, you'll see the crosswalk sign where people are crossing the street. So coming out, believe it or not, most of them are there, but you're not driving as fast as when you're turning in, so they all need to be placed. There's 27 of those. The other thing is the city, if you'll notice, most of the time after you cross a major intersection, you'll see the speed limit. And the policy is after you cross a major intersection and you're starting back up, if stop sign, you'll see a speed limit sign. So we are looking to put speed limit signs after every stop sign, like it is all over. That'll take, believe it or not, another 12 speed limit signs. So that's in the mix. And then there are stop signs, one that we just recently added at Land Bay 2, the north. We put that up, and once that final pour will be done, there'll be some striping across the road, put the white mark and things like that. You put it in now, and it gets striped. It's just underneath the asphalt. So that's going to be done. So all total, we need about 46 signs. So we looked at a vendor who would provide the signs that we have here. In Sandoval with the black background, and they are $500 a piece. Okay, do the math. Okay, if we do the math, that means that these things would cost $21,000. Okay, so then we were discussing, what can we do? I mean, this is an exorbitant number. Is there another alternative? Well, there is an alternative. It requires a little bit of a compromise, and I'm going to explain to you what my idea is for the compromise, and hopefully, you'll agree with that. If you don't, you'll have to tell me that. I'm interested in what you think. If we get a fence post, which is powder-coated black, and then get a cap for the top, and we can put the sign on that post, and it will be a black post, as we do have here. It will not have that big black background, but if we, sometime in the future, you just gotta have that black background, and it's in the budget, we can always do it, but at least we've got the safety signs up here in the interim. So the price that we were working on from the vendor, I have a quote right here, it was $21,000. So then I started putting the pieces together, and got 2 quotes for the fence posts. And it's also interesting to note that there's a federal regulation it's called the MUTCHTD, on regulations from the federal government about signposts, and signs that are on a highway have to be 5 feet tall before the bottom of the sign. And the signs on a residential area have to be 7 feet. Well, the reason for that is you don't want to be walking around and crack into one with your head, and most of us are a little under 7, so we should be in good shape. So, interestingly, the $21,000 quote was for a sign that was 10 feet. At total post length, but it's got to be put in the ground 3 feet. And if you wanted 11-foot posts, they wanted another $35 in addition to this $21,000 per sign. So
you ought to be in business making sign posts.
Exactly. So anyway, at Tropical Fence here, who's done a lot of our fencing, we were able to purchase a 13-foot post, 3 feet in the ground, 7 feet up. So then we've got 3 feet in the top to get the sign on and the cap. So we'll be able to put those up. We bought the road signs, and they are official signs. They're looked approved, and they're reflective. We were able to get those. There's a company in North Dakota, and they are already here in Al's garage. And then the bolts. The bolts are something, it's very interesting. We looked for a place online, and it was $137. And we can buy the bolts at a local company called Thread Source here in Fort Myers, and they cost us $70. So the whole cost of this project, with us digging the holes, and we will recruit volunteers, is $6,400. Wow. So I've talked with Frank, and again, our surplus money, and this is one of these little projects that, he was willing to try to figure out to do it out of the operating budget, but if we're going to use some of this surplus money, this is another good thing for that, and I would request that the board consider approval of that, and we probably would need a motion for this one because we already have warrants.
So you're making that motion, Don?
So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Sandoval signage proposal at a cost of $6,500.
And that to be, revenue sourced out of the
Teleservices,
surplus.
yes,
And
telecommunications.
it's appropriate to do it that way because we have a threshold on capital expenditure of 8,000 and it trips that threshold. So that
It makes the operation budget, it's a non-budgeted item, but it's a necessary item, and he was trying to work with me, but I think this is a way that we do it, that we all know where our money's coming from, which I think is important.
If I might request you to just amend that to include a little differential in that, just in case you have to go get something.
So I'd say it's 64.25.
Oh, you did that something, okay.
It's 7,000, but it's not going to be. And I've also bought a couple of extras in case we need them. So.
Okay, so we'll how about we amend it to $7,000, not to exceed $7,000.
And it's going to be 64.25.
And if you could get the claymores after the trip after
that's
the.
That's if we might need another bird to drill 200 holes. So that's true.
Okay, we got a second from Maryland, so it's for $7,000 out of surplus. Okay, discussion? I think you did very well. All right, let's call the question. All those in favor? All right, motion passes unanimously. Okay, Maryland, we're gonna do around the board. I'm sorry, any further comment? You can't let it alone.
No, I can't. I thought of something that Al sent out an email today, and it was on our survey. There are street lights. There are street lights, if you look at the end of every street is a T. There's two by the road, and there's one across the street. And on Land Bay, or maybe it is Maleta and Katy Circle, those are missing. Al took some pictures of those. He's talked with Jerry about it. And if you also note it down by the Pine Island Gate, one of the lights is up by the Esplanade and not out on the street. So there's something that needs some attention with Taylor Morrison with that. And I just want to bring that to everyone's attention that we're aware of it, they're missing, and whether Taylor Morrison puts them in, I think we need to press them for that because again, it's a safety issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Marilyn?
Yes. Tonight, for our packet, when you look at all these pages, all I had prior to this, to walking in, was 3 sheets. And I really want to thank Molly and Jerry for, in the future, providing us everything in 5 days in advance, because it really will be helpful to read everything. Will that also include committee reports, which might be?
It would be great. If we, I might suggest that we put together a full-year calendar of meeting dates and include with that calendar dates for when required reporting is in.
I was just going to say, if it's not sent, will it be on the website? Or
actually, Marilyn, what I would, and I don't know, Jerry, if you could ring in on this one. I don't know if it takes a motion for us to have committee reports in a minimum of 6 days prior to the board meeting, so that within 5 days of the board meeting, Jerry and I can put together the packets to go out electronically to every board member, and then to also have a hard copy in a folder, as we've had tonight, for each board member, so that we can look at it as we go along. Does it require? Okay. So the request is going to go out to all committee chairmen to please have their committee reports to Jerry 7 days prior to a board meeting. I know it's going to put a crimp in everybody's style to think that far in advance, but it will certainly help not only the board members, but it will help the entire community to know, to be able to have a smoother run board meeting. Thank you.
yes, and one other comment. There is resident comments on whatever's on the agenda, but when residents ask questions, shouldn't the questions be answered? I think, just looking at our city council and, when residents ask questions, the question isn't answered right at that time, but at the end of, citizen input, all of the questions are answered. And so consequently, I just think they deserve to be answered.
I would concur that that's a reasonable addition in this suggestion.
Al, Marlon?
A lot of times, and if the question is in the comments during the board meeting, that would substantiate the answer to the question, and I think we should indicate that should answer a portion of a question that is asked. That we just cannot answer a specific question at the very beginning when it's asked. Just know that before the meeting adjourns, it will be answered.
And I would also like to say, we didn't receive, everybody thinks we received the clubhouse expansion a long time ago. I just got it Monday, so consequently, it has taken time. And so I want people to know that we just got it.
I've got to work my way up higher on the list.
Excuse me, please. Frank? Al, any comments? Okay.
I would like to request that each of the board members be provided a headset like yours, so that the communication can go out a lot better than moving microphones back and forth. In addition, I would like to see a microphone that would be attached as opposed to a handheld at the podium. And I think we should rely on Vic to be able to provide the information to the board on what's needed and to be able to purchase those. Vic, we're not talking a great deal of money, are we, per headset?
No. I'd have to do some research and find out.
Okay. Can you get back to Jerry on that, please?
Yeah, Jerry, you can pick up on that, okay? Any other comments? Let me just say in closing, we have the upcoming election, and I just encourage everyone to get out there and vote. No matter how you're gonna vote, get out there and vote. And I would also like to just take this time, Jason is not present today. Jason is not going to run for the election. We'd like to thank him for his service as a board. Myself and Frank are running, and we may not be here in a couple of weeks. I just want to express my appreciation for being able to fill this role for a period of time. And I think it's a great community, and I love it here. And I hope that Frank and my participation has been a contribution to this community. If we're not back again, so be it. But thank you. Frank, if you want to add?
That was a very good sentiment by Joe, and I agree totally. If we're not back, I'll be more than happy to, help someone in the transition. The general manager, we got a new general manager. If we're not here, there'll be some gap in information, and I'm sure Joe will be more than willing to, to work with the new staff, and I will as well.
Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn? We're going to adjourn, and then we have a motion to adjourn?
No. I have a follow-up.
Yeah, we do that. Okay. Yeah. So we got a motion to adjourn, and we have a second. Right. We have a second. Okay. All those in favor? All right, meeting's adjourned. We'll now go to open public session. Do we need a break first, or do we open?
First person on the list tonight is Steve Rankin.
Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Putnam from Borrell Court, and I'm a little confused because I heard a reference from Joe about a 4-year schedule in advance for meetings. I only heard about this board meeting on Sunday at Jerry's introduction, so my request is that the board look seriously at least putting together a set schedule of board meeting dates and times for at least 6 months, and that board agendas be published not less than 7 days in advance, so people know whether there's gonna be steak or shrimp.
Thank you, Steve.
Next speaker, Bill Tuck.
Good evening, Mr. Evans, board members, residents of Sandoval. I'd like to discuss the Sandoval Clubhouse Expansion Project. Being a certified general contractor, even though I'm inactive, having worked in Lee County as either a contractor in the construction industry or the executive director of financial services for the largest consumer of commercial construction in Lee County for the past 30 years, I know most of the commercial contractors in the county, including Christel, Mr. Howard Wheeler, Christel. I had discussions with Mr. Wheeler about this project, and he told me that he did submit a preliminary bid to this board as a construction manager at $3 million. He was told you were only going to accept a full guaranteed price contract, which he withdrew from because he doesn't do that kind of work. He only does construction management. He did tell me that any reputable contractor who would make a guaranteed price bid to you would take his $3 million and add at least 10% to it as a contingency. And that currently in Lee County, the construction industry is experiencing a 6 to 8% per annum inflation rate. And this project is in excess of 1 year, so that would have to be added as well. So the price for this project is between $3.3 and $3.5 million, even though you haven't disclosed that to the residents yet. I think that should be disclosed to the residents if that's what we're looking at. And I'd like to know, what are your plans? Are you gonna write a check for $3.5 million from the CenturyLink fund to pay for it? Pay for the 11,000 square feet that the owners approved? Are you gonna cut it down to half size, which the 1.9 million, which the residents approved, can pay for? Or what are your plans? I think that should be disclosed to these residents. We're 16 days away from an election, and I think that will bode on how they decide to vote. So they need that information. Additionally, Ms. Tammy, I didn't realize you were either an attorney or licensed to practice before the Internal Revenue Service, as I am. But I respect your opinion on this. It was my bio where we talked about taxability. You read code, but you didn't read the whole code. You left out the part that says, generally, an association may elect under provisions of Code Section 528 to receive certain tax benefits that, in effect, permit it to exclude its exempt function income from gross income. My question was, is building a multi-million-dollar savings account that generates interest income to the homeowners association qualify as exempt function income? We could have a discussion with that. I would have loved to have had a discussion at the finance committee with the auditors, but they've never made an appearance. From last year, we'll have to agree to disagree. The only way we'll get a definitive answer is to bring the Internal Revenue Service in to give us a revenue ruling, and I do not want to do that. So, say what you like. There is a difference of opinion, and it's an honest difference of opinion.
Bill and the rest of the audience, there will be a communique sent by the board of directors matters next week regarding the clubhouse. We'll answer a lot of those questions. Thank you. Next on the speaker list is Craig Snyder.
Okay, the huge question on my mind, and the mind of many of us here tonight, is the clubhouse expansion and the bids. Bid specifications were provided in December, with bids due back in January. You had no agenda item tonight concerning clubhouse expansion in the regular meeting today. Mr. President, do you know what the bids are? And understanding your response tonight, I would take that as a yes. In my opinion, and my opinion only, the community has not been told because the bids came in way over the $1.9 million. And Mr. President, you don't want the community to know what the bids are before the election. What are you going to tell us next week? Actual numbers? Mr. President, sooner or later the truth will come out when you have those bids and what they are. Your silence, Mr. President, answers for me that you know what the bids are and you don't want to tell the community the actual costs until after the election. Thank you.
Jim Swigert.
Thank you. Quick.
That gentleman kind of said like I don't want you to hear me. What that gentleman just said, and I have the same question. If the bids are in, and I think I quote Marilyn said that she got hers on Monday, and maybe I'm wrong, then every board member has a copy of that. Number two, when was the cutoff to send the bids in? To me, it's done. The bids are in, and you have 3 bids, to my knowledge. And two bids, Marilyn said. And why can't you tell us? I mean, we're all in here together, and I think it should be said. Now, if you need more money, tell me what you're gonna do, and I might support it. But I can't support it if all I get is rumor control. Please, board, current board, tell us the truth and let's just get it over with, please.
So, Mr. Swigert, one of the issues we have, and it'll be addressed in the memo or communicate next week, but one of the issues is if we have to bring in other bidders, there's going to be some uneven playing field if they know what the original numbers are. So we will address that and communicate next week, but that is one of the concerns.
Jerry, the bids are in. Why are you extending for more bids? The bids should be done and no more bids. You sent it out, you asked it to come back, it's back. I don't want to hear more bids. That's bullhockey. I don't want to hear that, Jerry. I'm sorry, but we can't have more bids. I'm sorry.
Next, I cannot read the name, but I believe the first name is Thomas.
You minus and membership in Catholic school.
Don't keep him in suspense, tell him your last name.
I just wanna say that I'm confused and I know there's a right path, and I'm hoping that we can get to it. First, thank you for all the hard work that you guys do with all the committees, you do a fantastic job. But I'm trying to piece everything together, and I get confused on what I'm reading and what I'm hearing as we move along. One of the things that just confused me is the memo that came out, and I'm thinking it's a timing thing where Frank is saying that we have 1.7+ million in the surplus. I'm guessing that's last year, because when you say there's 1.85 million, I'm assuming that's the surplus account, because it's not truly identified, but when you say CenturyLink, I'm assuming that's what that means.
1.7 is what we're at now, 1.85 is what we're at in February.
I'm not hearing you.
I'm not exactly sure what you're looking at, but we're at 1.7 at this moment, through December.
So in this memo that was just sent out, it says 1.85.
What's the date that you're indicating?
Well, it says as of February 1st, so that's what I'm saying.
Well, I'm
You might
saying,
be talking December, February.
because I was giving December results.
Okay. All right.
That's a different story.
And as I read it and understand we're going $50,000 in, the wording just is a little confusing because, and it's true, but it's confusing. It says, we'll have plenty of money salted away for that come August. But if we put 50,000 in and we stay at the 1.9, that means in March we've made that amount. So that's what's confusing on that side. Now I'm hearing we want to spend more money out of this account that I think we were told that we had to have the money on hand to be able to actually do the building. But if we're taking 500, I want the lakes to be done, so I don't mind taking left pocket and right pocket, so that says we're going to take the money from the reserve account, which we have 2 million. And if I look at the old reserves study, which I'm learning where the January one is supposed to come in, I did talk to Jerry. He says it's being postponed until March. I don't know that the rest of the Sandoval residents know that I don't mind taking money out of reserves, because the old reserve says we need about $1 million over the next 6 years, and then after that it really accelerates. That we find a way from the CenturyLink account monthly to put certain monies back, so we understand what that $38 and change is going to, because you can't spend 1.9, 500,000, 7,000, and still have enough money to build a clubhouse if it has to all be there on hand at the start. But that's what we were alluding to at an earlier time.
You were not told that during the expansion presentations. That statement was made later, and I don't think that
It was made later, and I'm saying that's why I'm confused, and I've lost some clarity on that. And is there one more issue? I'll leave it at that at this particular time. And I have a follow-up from your answer.
I can follow up if you want. First off, by August, we're gonna have well over $2 million. We will accumulate almost $300,000 from August. Let me give you the exact amount.
You're right, it is a
$276.
above and beyond.
And then the question is gonna be how much are we going to disperse in a given year? So the $1.9 million, if we don't start in August, we probably won't even pay $500,000. So of the $500,000, say we pay $500,000 in this coming year, and we accumulate 276, we're down $200,000. The next year, we're gonna deposit $664,000 back in. Now, the whole question is how much are we going to be paying against the expansion in the next year? Because it'll probably take 2.5 years. So it's almost the same amount coming in that's going out. That's why we wanted to get to over the max when we started. We are certainly not going to be paying $1.9 million this particular year. I think we're all in agreement with that. You know, we're not going to build it all in this one particular year.
I understand that, but it's not being conveyed. That's what I'm saying. It's confusing. The information that we're getting.
I'll sit down with Jerry and I'll try and put out something that's much clearer then. You know, on the way the cash flow goes out.
I understand that, but share the information.
I will. That's what I said. If this is a question, I'll make sure I get it out there.
And am I correct that the January reserve is not coming until later? Study?
The reserve study is in March. It's March.
Okay, but I think as we were discussing what to do with the sale of homes, it was tabled because we were anticipating it in January.
Absolutely.
We're now
That's
February, we don't have that
advisors.
information that's moved to March.
Exactly, that's reserve advisors advised us not to do it in March, they couldn't do it in January.
And I understand what Frank is saying, do we have to have this money all in place in our accounts? Which I think we do, because we got $2 million in one pocket, we got almost $2 million in another pocket.
You have to show the capability of having the money.
Okay, but our reserve shows that without the Century Link.
Yeah.
So we have it,
That's correct.
and I want to move forward. Here's the other part, I want us to be safe, I want everything to be right, but I'm looking for a little fun. Now, I don't play pickleball, but they can have a court, because we know from what we're told, you're not gonna be able to make an alteration to the tennis court without getting the community's approval. And you're not gonna get it because there's not enough people to support it. I'm okay with creating a pickleball court. I might not use it, but I'm looking also for us to have something else as an amenity for us as a community. I'm one of, but I think I want to speak for everyone at some times.
Thank you, Tom.
Chris Bechtel.
Okay, hi, I am Christine Bechtel from Brightside Court, and anyway, actually I only have a couple small things. I've always been wondering why so many people really have not submitted plans for changing landscaping or things on the front of their homes, and I do know that there's this $25 fee. Now, my question is, why is that $25 fee necessary? And if, does it serve as, do we really need that much money to collect from each person making a request to change some landscaping in front of their house? Or is it just there as, which I think it might be a deterrent. I think it has been a bit of a deterrent because people don't want to spend the money, even that small amount. So I'm just asking if that could be considered to waive that. And then my other comment is, I just thought of, after you were speaking, Marilyn, about having the agenda for everyone well ahead. I would also like to request that the agenda have more details. Like, for example, it said, like, people can speak on agenda items, but sometimes these things are very vague and we can't understand what's, like, maybe it would say vote will be taken on whatever it is, and then we'll know specifically whether we want to talk about it or not. And that's all.
Thank you. I can actually consider both of those things. I think your first request of the $25 ARC fee is a reasonable request. And in my experience, most fees that are charged to homeowners are due to third-party contractors assisting in that process. So there's a cost to that. But so certainly I can look at, I think what's more important are the refunds, or excuse me, the deposits for potential damages, and also I think Molly was talking earlier about the need to know when people finish up. And then the second comment you made on the agenda items, we can certainly look at that, so thank you.
I would comment on the $25 fee. I think the most important thing is compliance and getting people to apply and willing to ask for permission to do things. When I first arrived here, the fee wasn't in place, then it was in place, and I always felt, well, you know, if I'm going to put in a bush or a tree, well, I don't want to pay $25 to ask for the permission, but if I was able to request and get permission without a $25 fee, I would walk right over there and tell you.
Don's a bush bootlegger. I think that's all the questions. Listen, thank you. Happy Valentine's Day. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. You weren't on the list, you were on the early list.
I saw signed the wrong list when I put it. So,
Can you tell me your name, please?
My name's Dan Robbins.
Some people here know me as Three Dog Dan. I take my dogs out frequently and visit the community with my lovely Cavalier King Charles Spaniels and my Yorkie. But my question tonight is more of a safety issue, because on my particular street, which I am the street captain, I don't know exactly what that means, but we have a problem with intermittent streetlights. The one on the corner of 2617 is intermittent. Sometimes they'll be on, sometimes it won't. So coming out to walk the dogs at night, I might see Molly and I might not. Depends on if that light is on.
What street are you speaking of?
It's a Casabari Court. The other problem is when the light is on, we have lost our tree service, and every light on Casabari is covered by the palms, cutting out 50% of the light. You have a very hard time seeing. And I have reported this twice, and there's never feedback on this. I would like to know if, it went down to the next point to get it done. The first time I reported it, it's been over 4 months. And I kept waiting and waiting. I go out at 10 o'clock, lights out. I go out 11, it's on. So I called and reported the light that has the number on it, starting with D, twice. I would at least like some feedback on the safety issue.
I can address some of those things. The security guard is here in the evening, once a week, canvasses the entire community and reports which ones are off, which ones are on and off, and they are then compiled, and Jim Swigert contacts LCEC to have those repaired. Now, if yours is on when he goes by, he's not reported it is off, but the point of contact would be through the office, and then Jim Swigert will make that happen. Hey, the other part of your question is the lights that are blocked. The guard was asked to canvass the community and report those, and he has a list of those as well, and we could see if your streets trees have been noted on that list as well.
What kind of time factor are we talking about? Because when you you call in, like I said, it's been 3 months. And if that gentleman is driving around looking at the lights and stuff, I haven't heard anything about it. And I'm out frequently every night walking my dogs, sometimes at 8, sometimes at 10. I haven't seen anybody since the incident at the back gate with the security man. Have we got a new security man now?
Yeah, we've blown the security, I don't know who it is. But listen, we will address your points through Jerry.
Okay, well, I appreciate that.
Listen, before we break up, guys, let me just let you with one thought. Again, I'm going to reiterate, if you would respectfully include John Mills in your prayers tonight. That guy's out there hanging out, and it's tomorrow morning, so please say a prayer for him, okay?
I can stop, but if I could real quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, everyone. Let me turn it off.
Just real quickly, number one, first and foremost, thank you for the move on the aeration. I just was texting Jim, 17, I'm not sure on the lakes, but the number.
Whatever,
we'll talk about, yeah.
I may have counted wrong.
No big deal. Quickly, lighting, safety issue. On the way out of Veterans, I know there's missing light stanchions there that were on the PDP. Can we look and see? I don't know if TM's going to pay for that or we are, but on the way out, right-hand side, we have some put in on the left.
If they're on a PDP, we can go after TM for them.
Perfect. Let me see, just quickly, CenturyLink, they have, I closed on a property for a client on Monday, and we just found out that CenturyLink has canceled their mobile app, so we can no longer stream. So they also wanted internet service for their home. CenturyLink is no longer doing individual internet service, they're deferring to DirecTV. So I called CenturyLink and spoke to a rep in here, and they said they're not doing any new individual services. So that's-
we'll track that one down,
Absolutely,
because that's crap, that's not per superior contract.
Yeah, well, it's a local one on Del Prado where they got the information from. But
Yeah, we deal with the national,
the
contract
contract
side,
one,
yeah,
correct.
so.
So I just wanted to give you that, that's the information
Thank you.
that's floating around out there.
Okay.
So, and the other thing was, when we're talking about the list, I know was brought up of acceptable plants that we're gonna add to that list. What I'd like to see probably is unacceptable plants, because what we're having now is, a lot of class 1 invasives that are being allowed, where the state of Florida says they're class 1 invasive species. Mexican petunias, lantana, oysters, all of those. So if they're on our list in remiss, I think we need to omit class 1 invasives from the list of approved. So we have,
Those ones you just mentioned, they're not on the approved list.
okay, well, they're all over our development, even in the common areas, so we're currently planting class 1 invasives, so we need to clean that up. Also, getting ready, just quickly, the last thing, I'm not gonna belabor this, is the bids that were received by the people, by the members. If you wanna hold on to the bids for whatever reason, they are public record, so I will personally go on the record right now and ask for an Open Public Record Act request to get them released if you don't wanna release those.
You're welcome to do that.
Yeah, because they went out for competitive bid, that's a public thing, and they are public record right now, so if you don't wanna release them, I'll get with the GM and we'll make an open public records request to get those released.
You can follow that process if you want. Thank you all. Please keep John in your prayers.